Yearning for Mashiach, Episode 4. I've entitled it, Why is Society's Deterioration a Harbinger of Geula? When we take a cold, hard look at the world today, it doesn't take much time or insight to recognize that we are living in an unusual, or as some people put it, a crazy world. Things just aren't normal anymore. It's a meshigana velt. Slowly but surely, we are witnessing firsthand, and we sense, in the depths of our being, that things are spinning out of control. Although we could draw upon any number of things to illustrate this point, I want to focus on just one in this episode. And once we absorb that particular anomaly, drill down to its core, we'll be in a better position to extrapolate, to better understand other anomalies as well. While some parents may not be experiencing firsthand any of what I'm about to talk about, especially those with young children, a growing number of parents who have been experiencing a shift in their relationships with their children. This is particularly true regarding parents who have children who are teenagers or older, and all the more so those with adult children. This shift spans the spectrum. On the relatively more innocuous end, parents are finding it more difficult to have honest dialogue with their children. This isn't just limited to helpful criticism. Many parents claim that they can't tell their children anything anymore. Even helpful suggestions that would improve the children's lives, or at least make it easier, are completely off the table. Remaining silent has become the strategy of success for many parents. And those who are courageous enough to say it anyway are indulging in risky behavior, as though those good intentions may be just the thing that will create more distance. And yet, while this alone is enough to be very hurtful to any parent, not every child's pushback stops there. For some parents, their children have to various degrees literally pushed their parents out of their lives. Visits and even phone calls aren't as frequent. Those tender family moments have largely become things of the past, memories. And believe it or not, for some, the situation has crossed all red lines, as there is a disturbing trend of children cutting themselves off from their parents completely. Parental estrangement, as it is known, has become a growing phenomenon in our community. Among the most frightening developments in Klal Yisroel today is the expanding population that has completely pushed their parents out of their lives. Although as baffled as they are as the rest of us, Boruch Hashem, there's a growing cadre of caring and talented mechanchim and therapists who are struggling to address this phenomenon. This past Tisha B'Av, the Chofetz Chaim Foundation devoted its annual video to raising awareness and strengthening the mitzvah of Kibbud Av. With all of our pressing needs, we need to ask ourselves, why would something as fundamental as the fifth commandment in the Aseres HaDibros be selected to be the Tisha B'Av video? How could it be that Broken Ties, a wonderful organization devoted to supporting and helping these broken-hearted parents who have lost relationship with their precious children, how could such an organization be steadily growing across the globe? What is going on? It seems that the answer can be found on the final daf of Masechta Sotah. The Brisa there tells us that be'ikvus of the Mashiach, as the footsteps of Mashiach approach, there will be numerous anomalies. Chutzpah will run amok. The economy will begin to crumble. The social order will deteriorate. Governments will become fountains of heresy. And respect for Talmidei Chachamim will be on a steady decline. And the leaders of these nations, instead of leading, will be following the masses they supposedly control. In a word, society, as we have always noted, will deteriorate. The foundations will crumble. But perhaps the most startling of all is that the backbone of society that has existed since time immemorial, the family structure, this itself will disintegrate. The Brisa tells us that the youth will humiliate their elders. A son will disgrace his father, and a daughter will rise up against her mother. Fathers will find that the members of their households will become their enemies. Chas v'sholom. We need to ask, why is it that the Geula needs to be preceded by the deterioration of society in all these many facets, and especially the disintegration of the family itself? What is the common thread that we see in all of this deterioration? Rabbi Yisrael Moshe Sorotsky in the Sefer Ketz Yeshua quotes the Rambam, who says that the entire purpose of the creation in general, and of man in particular, is for man to recognize and internalize the oneness of Hashem. What does this mean? The Ramchal explains that the Rambam means that man needs to recognize that Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing besides Hashem. Ein Od Milvado is the complete recognition that there's nothing, anywhere, anytime, in any way, besides Hashem. Whatever we think has existence, animate or inanimate, only exists because Hashem wills it to exist. There's no independent existence to anything, despite our perceptions otherwise. Included in this is that everything in history is carefully designed to bring man to this recognition. So let's turn back to the Brisa and Saita that we previously mentioned. That Brisa that delineates what will occur prior to the Geula. Berachim Levovitz Tzatzal, the famous Mashgiach of the Mir, explains that for us to fully grasp that Hashem is everything, Ein Od Milvado, anything and everything that we thought was foundational, that was an anchor, that we thought was independent of Hashem, must cease to exist beforehand. When the Geula finally occurs, Hashem will be appearing on what is essentially a clean slate. Common respect, the economy, the social order, government's leadership, but of course at the core of the family structure upon which everything else is built, will become nullified. It is only then that Hashem will bring the Geula. So as painful as what is happening to our precious families is, at least now we have a context. The breakdown of communication between parents and children, the respect, the closeness, and the availability of the family unity by necessity needs to fracture. This isn't punishment for the parents' sins. It isn't even the consequence of inadequate or bad parenting, but rather a necessary step in dissolving the structure of society as a precursor to the Geula. Although we don't know Hashem's cheshbon with every individual, it is very possible that since only certain parents are experiencing this breakdown for them, the agonizing pain may very well be what Chazal call Yisurim Shel Ava. Rashi explains that Yisurim Shel Ava is when a Kadosh Baruch Hu gives a person pain in this world, not as punishment for a sin, but rather to increase a person's reward in the world to come beyond any reward that same person could earn as a result of his mitzvahs that he did in this lifetime. Parents who are enduring what seems to be inexplicable need to see their pain in a larger picture, what is necessary for the coming of the Geula. And this doesn't assuage the pain itself, but it does give that pain purpose. That purpose is not dissimilar to the biggest of tzaddikim in history, such as Rabbi Akiva, Zatzal, who understood what he needed to tolerate, the pain he needed to tolerate, the inexplicable pain that he needed to tolerate as the necessity to elevate his neshama, bring him closer to Hashem, and not to mention increase his olam haba. So as we witness society continue to crumble, and as we lose those foundations and anchors upon which we have built our lives, we certainly feel a deep sense of insecurity and trepidation. We're afraid. After all, this is the only world that we know, and to feel it slipping away is traumatic. At the same time as Yidden who are longing for the Geula, we need to focus on where this is all leading, what it's really all about. Just as when it comes for a time for a seed to germinate, the seed coat or covering over the seed needs to break down and allow the embryo, the immature plant contained within that seed to emerge and grow into a seedling. So too, the order of the world in all of its various dimensions needs to break down to allow the Geula to emerge. It is only then that we can hope to fully grasp Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing besides Hashem, which, as we said, is the purpose of creation of man itself. We yearn for that Geula, despite its painful path.